Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Taproom Success Podcast. I'm Kerry Shumway, joined as always by my good buddy Andrew Copeland. Andrew, how you doing today?
Carrie, it's hard to believe we're at CBC in Indianapolis together last week. So it was wonderful spending time with you in person, and it's always great to catch up, even on this little camera.
It is. It's always great. I had a short trip to CBC as we were talking about. Yours was much longer. Um, but what were your impressions of the event? Any key takeaways or what would you
Yeah,
share
that's a
with?
great one. I feel like everybody who was there for a reason. They were either looking to have specific conversations, they were looking for a specific product or service, they had a goal in mind, and they were invested in something regarding their business, which I think was great because it made the conversations that I had really meaningful. There's always something that someone wanted to talk about versus just general industry fodder, which is always fine, but it's nice when we're diving into a specific aspect, whether it's tap rooms, finance, or just, trends that we expect to be having to tackle the next little bit. What
Yeah.
about you?
Oh, I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head where people show up with a hit list of things that they're trying to figure out. Either they're trying to buy equipment or connect with, network with, or just learn something very specific. So I had set up a series of meetings, and people would come in and, by and large, it was folks that had existing breweries, existing tap rooms, and were trying to either kind of validate how we doing or say, hey, we're having some struggles. Can you help with X, Y, or Z? And I'm not sure there was a common theme there other than everybody's kind of wrestling with the same thing. We've got a lot of tap rooms, we've got a lot of competition out there. What can we do to continue to try to stand out? So I think it's more important than ever. I think the stuff that you and I are talking about, what that we learn from other people and share are really a lot of fundamentals. It's really comes down to fundamental best practices, hospitality, customer engagement.
I heard the word hospitality way more times than I ever had at a CBC, which is great.
I think people are finally embracing that. Whereas before it was open to tap room, that's so cool. There's beer, people will come, and it's doesn't they'll come once, but they may not come back if your hospitality is top notch and you're offering great food options or different, menu options. You've got a better fighting chance. So, but by and large, I thought the mood was good. It is a self-selecting crowd, right? Where people are coming there, they have the means to get there, meaning they're probably doing well enough in their business. But generally, people seemed pretty high spirited.
Yeah, definitely. It was great seeing everybody face to face.
So today, hard right turn here. We're going to talk about. I'll say this. You can tell me if you think it's right or not. It's kind of a controversial topic, right?
I would
Kids and
agree with
brewers.
you that this is a controversial topic, probably more so than, offering flights, probably above the level seltzers used to be controversial. Yes, this is arguably controversial.
So kids in your tap room brewery. So you recently wrote an article about this. So tell us about it. What inspired you to write that?
Yeah, we'll throw out the disclaimer on this one. Not every brewery is for families. So if this isn't for you, if your brewery aims to not be family friendly, you might not appreciate this. But if you are looking to reach more people and get them spending more, I think this could potentially be interesting to you. So this idea, I think about kids in breweries a bit. I mean, I have a 5-year-old. We go to breweries. We're always trying to find the one where, we can all be pleased for the longest amount of time. But I was lucky enough to lead a panel at CBC with some great folks from across the country. And, one of the breweries on there, Studley Brewing, is a very family-friendly brewery. So we got quite a bit of questions about, how you handle kids in breweries. And Blake with Studley talked a bit about what's working for him. But following our panel, and this is honestly one of my favorite parts, once you take the official questions that they feed you through the Slido app and the session ends, few people who want to engage more just walk up to the stage and you can naturally begin more conversations. So a couple of brewery owners from Texas approached me and they were talking about, what can they do with their brewery? They have a huge outdoor space and they have kids coming, but what can they do to actually make it more family and kid friendly? So it's like more contained, the kids have something to do. And so I jokingly suggested, I mean, it was maybe half joking at the time, why don't you get a playground? Literally, it's what I said. And it kind of seemed like a joke, but the more I thought about it, the more it kind of made sense for that brewery. I mean, they were leaning in really hard to wanting kids, wanting families. So once again, if this isn't your approach, you definitely don't need a playground. So definitely get rid of the playground if you have one. Don't go for it. But it kind of resonated because when you think about it, if you're inviting the whole family out for a day, what can you do to make everybody happy? So we're going to dive into that more in a second. But I think, generally speaking, right now, as we're trying to create these welcoming spaces for everyone, you have to be really intentional with what you're doing because people are going out less. And when they do go out, they're trying to please everyone in that group. And, a while back, I wrote an article. This is a couple years ago. I called it the Venn diagram of taproom experience. And this is what I referred to as like a formula to kind of have those experiences that people crave. Obviously we're in the beer industry, so you need to have that quality beer. So beer is a pillar there. Another pillar was you had to have a memorable atmosphere. You had to have that. Then you also needed to have engaging staff. You need to have engaging staff. And when you get to the center of all those three at the center of the Venn diagram, that's what I refer to as a wow experience. And that's what gets people craving to come back to your brewery, and your place being the destination they're choosing to spend their money. So as a whole, it's just so important to not just have great drinks anymore. I mean, we have more than beer, most of us, anyways, but you got to hit all the other buckets with atmosphere, staff engagement, because people are going out less. Once again, there's being more intentional with where they're going. So how can you please everyone when it comes down to that? And when you're diving a little bit deeper into those three buckets, the atmosphere is a lot more than just, oh, it's a pretty place. What are you offering that kind of feeds into that atmosphere? Maybe you have a kitchen that has delicious pizza. Maybe you have live music every weekend outside. What are you doing to attract people? And this kind of stemmed into in my mind from that conversation, Carrie. Sorry to kind of can the prompts that you were supposed to ask me right now, but you just got me rolling. Um, you know, when you're bringing kids to breweries, you want to make sure the kids are happy. So the question came like, what if your tap room was a kid's favorite place? I mean, think about it. When a kid goes to a playground, they want to go to the biggest, the best, the one with the most kids, most likely, the one that the ice cream truck's going to show up to. They don't want to go to the playground with the rusty slide and nothing really fun to climb on. So if your kids are going to a place and you want the kids at your brewery, like what can you do to make it memorable for that kid? That way, when you and the family are going out next time, this is what I love, and I've told stories about this before. I get my kid begging me to take them there versus anyone else. And then we're all happy, right?
That's true. Well, I like that. So we talk a lot about what are ways that you're going to bring people into your tap room, right? So they're going to come because of great beer or great food or a lot of options, or there's events, there's something fun they want to do. But I think this concept of creating these welcoming spaces for all types of guests, sure, including kids, as that's the topic for today, is super important. So maybe say a little bit more about that. Like, what do you like welcoming spaces? And maybe take this question in two parts. Like some folks who are listening, are like, well, pretty small tap room. I don't have really a way to kind of differentiate. Or no, maybe I do have enough room. How might I go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, if your tap room is a small tap room, while you may be like this has came up as a term in our session, which I don't think I'd heard before, you may be family welcoming, as in if you show up with your family, everyone's going to feel welcomed. But the other term that was thrown out during the session at CBC was family friendly, as in you're intentionally doing things to make everyone in that party not just feel welcomed, but feel like they can hang out for longer periods of time. So going back to that first Venn diagram I talked about, the buckets were, the atmosphere, the staff, and the beer. Now, this is a little humorous. It was really fun to do. I made a really fun Venn diagram out of it as well, like done the style of a kid with crayons. You'll have to check it out later, Carrie, and everybody else listening. But the three things that you need to do to maximize that child's experience in your tap room. First off, easy one, kids snacks. I mean, you and I like tapas a lot, but a tapas menu might not be what a really kid wants. I mean, they want hot dogs, they want cheese pizza, they want grilled cheeses, they want Capri Suns, and they probably want goldfish. Taproom owners, managers, I know you hate goldfish, but these are the things kids like. So I think beginning with having a snack that a kid will enjoy, so simple, right? But if the kid's happy, Everyone else is happier too, and I might get that second beer. So kid snacks, number one. The second one I think is pretty important is just kids' activities. And I don't mean you need to have a preschool teacher kind of leading the pack, but do you have games? Do you have giant Jenga? Maybe Connect Four? Do you just have a coloring book and crayons that you give kids who enter your space that are going to occupy their time in a positive way? Because I know when I go to a brewery with my son and he's just sitting on the long bench with nothing to do, I mean, typically we'll bring a bag for him. If we don't, he's going to get bored. And I know my time in that tap room is not going to be long. So, kids' snacks, kids' activities, but also kid-friendly spaces. And, when I think about kid-friendly spaces, I'm thinking of, maybe a spacious patio, maybe some sort of yard. Maybe a kid-friendly space offers, plastic cups instead of glasses. I prefer glass myself, but maybe they're doing this to be more kid-friendly. I even saw a brewery in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. They have a giant pirate ship playground for kids to hang along, and parents can drink their beer on the patio benches nearby. It's like things that these spaces are doing to become intentionally kid friendly versus just saying, hey, you can bring your kids. But these are things that say, hey, kids, you can come, you can hang out, you can enjoy it. And we want to be your favorite place. Because when you have the activities, you have the snacks, you have the space, you become the kid's favorite playground in a way, right? I mean, it's kind of silly, but if you're gonna lean into welcoming kids to your tap room, and all this is said with by being safe. I'm not going out and pounding 8 beers with my kids climbing on the slide. No, I'm enjoying the day outside. I'm enjoying live music. I'm maybe having a couple drinks and walking home. We want to do this all in a safe manner, but when you can find a spot that pleases everyone, everyone spends more time, they're going to spend more money, and they're going to crave to come back more. So I think it's really fun to think about what you can do to intentionally be more not just family friendly but kid friendly, right?
I like it. I like it. Yeah. No, I think it's under the umbrella of just having a welcoming space that's, a space for families or, young couples or whatever it may be. But, we're not really in a position now where we can, just randomly exclude. We need more people to come in, and this could be an interesting way to do it. Like you said, lean into it, embrace it, create those welcoming spaces. Think like a kid. We were all kids at one point. Like what did you like to do? Maybe it's something creative. I don't know, Legos or video games or, simple could be simple things too.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it's about. And there's no one size fits all answer for everyone listening today. You have to know your audience just like your regulars and what they crave. I'm not telling you to necessarily go around and ask the kids what they would like to see in your tap room, but maybe on April Fool's Day, I put out something I called it Kids Hop in the style of like Kids Bop or like something like that. I kind of joked about, asking your kids what they want in your tap room. And I kind of did it as a parody. But at the same time, the better you can know your audience, no matter who it is coming to your place of business, they're spending money, the better you can create that experience that they expect and crave.
Love it. So we always say, what book are you reading, right? When we talk about that. Are there any favorite kids books that you've got on?
Yeah, so right now my son he's learning how to read and he's getting pretty good at it. So he has these like 5-pager books that he's bringing home from school. So I'm enjoying going through them with him. I think as a whole, one of his all-time favorites that I enjoy as well is Corduroy. The bear who lost his button and goes on these little adventures. We always enjoy them because they're feel-good stories. They take you to a quick another world, and they show caring, they show compassion, and you get somewhere at the end. So I think Corduroy is one of our favorites, but on the other side of reading, when I'm reading grown-up books, I should say on this one, I recently reread Blitz Scaling by Reid Hoffman. It kind of talks about one thing that really resonated with me is the things you can do as a small business that large businesses can't. How you can be really agile. You can just throw something out there to the world and not perfect it and just kind of see what plays out and improve as you go. And I think as small breweries and even large breweries, when you are a small team, there are benefits to that. You may wear a billion hats, but a billion hats can lead you to having this crazy idea that you can do a kid-friendly event. Like, hey, let's do this in 2 weeks and put it together and just kind of see what happens. But what about you, Carrie? What are you reading? You've been through some airports recently, so I'm sure you picked something up.
Well, I've definitely been on this kick of, we're always talking about like how do you connect with maybe prospective customers for your tap room? Like how do you bring new people in. And we've gone over this and over this, and there's lots and lots of different ways. I think the through line is experimentation, right? Because there's not like a magic bullet, but if you try these dozen things, you do them consistently. But what really resonated with me was when we did the 10 old school ways to bring in new customers. Because let's face it, I'm old, and it's sort of what's the word? Nostalgic, I guess, for me. When
Nostalgic for sure.
you start thinking about, handing out business cards that have a free beer on it, or doing some direct mailers that say, "Hey, we've got this, event." Different ways to reach people. So I've been reading more on just sales process, really. So I read Fanatical Prospecting, which is like,
Yep.
what does that mean? It's like, how do you go out and, you know, find new prospects? And, in the context of your tap room, like, how are you prospecting to bring more people in? Very often we're like, well, yeah, we're on social media, we do Facebook and this, that, and the other. Okay, good. But what else? You got to get fanatical with it. There's different ways to go about it. And the one I just recently read was called Pick Up the Phone and Sell, which, as the title implies, means you pick up the phone and you sell. So you're literally calling people. But what I think is really nice about the concept in this book is you're not picking up the phone to sell per se. You're just picking up the phone to check in. I'm doing a proactive phone call. Hey, Andrew, it's Carrie. I was just thinking about you and seeing how business is going. And is there anything I can do to help? Because, I'd love to help if I can. That's it. And what number one is genuine. And two, people kind of be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I do. I have a problem with thus and such. And, maybe I can help and give them some resources. So I do think this could correlate in some fashion to tap rooms as you're trying to think about new and creative ways or old ways to bring more people in and connect. So maybe you're not calling an individual prospective customer. Maybe you're calling some local businesses that you want to partner with. Hey, I'm so and so from the tap room, and we're putting together corporate packages. What can you do that other people aren't doing? I think that's the other interesting thing is we've gone so far away from the phone. People don't even make phone calls anymore. A voicemail is a joke. Um, but people do have phones. Everybody has a phone. So leaving a voicemail is fine. You don't necessarily need to connect. You leave a voicemail, and you know what it does? It shows them you're thinking about them, that you care, that you're there, that you're a human being. They might not call you back. Maybe they'll email you back. Maybe they'll text you. But you're maintaining that connection. So anyway, that's my
In a
rant.
way, I like that a lot because think about any emails you have in your inbox.
Yeah.
Think of how many missed calls or voicemails you have a day. I know I have 50 times as many emails as I do voicemails. So maybe you'll get seen by that call.
Yeah. You stand out a little. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be, again, there's no magic bullet on this, but if you use that as part of your sales process, because I think it's everything. You got to have a good website that gives people the basic information, shows them what you got going on, what are your beers, what events do you have coming up, an updated calendar, a way to do some e-commerce. You got to have email, you got to have a newsletter list, you got to be segmenting your market and gathering that data. You got to do all these. You don't have to do them all at once, but this is sort of an ecosystem rather than just we need to post, on social media, three times, whatever your number is. So I kind of like it because it's something that we've really gone away from. People don't do it, and maybe it differentiates you.
No, I like it. And you talk about, this is like a resource. I mean, that's why we're here as well. Taproom Success was literally created to give taproom managers and owners like you all listening today the ability to connect with others, learn together, dive into all the content that we have, learn from industry experts. And that's why we're here. I don't think there's a better time than now to really invest in yourself. The industry is changing. I think the more you can connect and learn from others and grow both personally and professionally, the more successful you'll be long term. And everybody just dive in at taproomsuccess.com. We'd love to have you. And Carrie, anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think you said it great. Yeah, join us, tapfromsuccess.com. We do our monthly mastermind meetings. You get to connect with people from across the country. We have our monthly expert session, all sorts of great topics. We're going to cover AI this coming month. Marketing. How about creating a marketing campaign using AI? I didn't think you could, but you know what? You can, and it's amazing. So we're going to talk to James Amato, we saw a presentation that he did in Wilmington, North Carolina, and I think we were both joking, like we went into it very skeptical and we came out of it like, oh, this is something we need to know more about. So let's get him
It was
on.
interesting. Like kids and breweries, it might not be for you, but I think there's some good questions we can ask.
It gets the juices flowing. So yeah, we'd love to have you join us, taproomsuccess.com to learn more.
Everybody, we'll see you soon. Cheers.